Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another replay analysis. I'm going to start off by lowering the music slightly. Okay, cool. So, we're going to be looking at a Master's Level PvT here, and this is going to be, I'm going to be talking about mostly the difference between having the correct army composition and having the correct usage of your army, which we're going to get into a little bit later, especially depending on the opponent's composition, right? So this is probably something we can take away from all races. I don't think it's going to be exclusive to Protoss versus Terran, but it's going to be a way to reflect on how should I use my army. A lot of times people think, okay, well, what counters what, right? But like what unit counters what unit directly, but we're not thinking about how do you use them, where you use them, and of course the micro that can be involved as well. Like a lot of times we're like, okay, well, to deal with Marines you have to, you know, use Banelings or whatever, and then from the Terran side it's like, well, what if I micro my Marines, you know what I'm saying? Here's the first little mistake here, by the way. Okay, so let's just talk about this wall. This wall, you should probably just look up how to do this wall a little bit better. I think the proper version of this wall is something along the lines of pylon and then gateway cyber, and because this isn't even blocking here. So realistically, the only thing he's blocking right now is this, but the entire side here is completely open. I'm pretty sure you can get a pylon here and then gateway cyber, and then you just have this little spot here that you can plug if ever you need to. Yeah. Second thing right now, real quick. Second pylon for Protoss versus Terran. Don't get it at the back here. This is more or less a PvP thing because you kind of want to get those shield batteries really quick in case there's a proxy oracle. But against Terran, you do want that that second pylon to be in the front for a couple reasons. One, like if there's something happening on the map, turns out you scout and there isn't like a barracks, or you're not too sure there's like a double gas, but there's a barracks here, you're like not too sure what's happening, you're gonna want to expand, right? So if you place a pylon down directly, then you can put a shield battery like emergency or something. Like if all of a sudden you see that he's going straight marauders or something like that, well, you already have your pylon started and you can get your shield battery. If you have to wait to get a pylon finished and then wait for a shield battery finished, that's a whole different story. So I think it's very safe. Just put a pylon in here in front. It helps you scout just a little bit too. It helps you know with where the Reaper is, just in case. And what you do also is that once you place your second pylon here at the natural, just use that probe that would be a 17 out of 16 anyway, and just make him mine the minerals, because when you do that, you're gonna spot any shenanigans that's gonna happen here at the back, which you don't do. So just placing the pylon here makes this bunker extremely free. I'm pretty sure he noticed that you didn't place the pylon right there. So he's like, well, you've got no vision. Here we go. Slap the bunker down. Slap it down. Very simple. Slight supply block here. That's really not ideal. The unit should have almost been out by now. It should be out in technically at 30. So just by putting the pylon down here, not only do you discourage the SCV from building something because it's kind of risky, but on top of that, you can just use that probe, mine the minerals here. It would be an excess here anyway. You'd probably be 17 out of 16 anyway. And then using that probe to just mine the minerals, you'll be able to spot a bunker if it ever goes up, because this is starting to get in fashion. So just do it. Reaper gets in for free, and this is where it gets a little bit annoying for sure. This unit, I mean, this coming out at 240, that's not good, dude. It should be coming out at like, it's literally 7 seconds faster. Yeah. Also, just the fact that a pylon would be here, just putting you see, you don't even need to build this and then a shield battery. You could just literally just place a shield battery. You're cutting so much time into this putting pressure on you. Just having a pylon here at the front as your second pylon has so many benefits. Just do it. Just do it. Let's get scored. Cool. Okay, we're going to be taking a third base pretty nicely. Let's just go to the production tab. Hold on real quick. I'm just going to change to my observing hotkeys. Okay. Okay, what's happening in the main? We got a Reaper. We're going into Colossus here. So, I'm not sure why he went Robo first. I'm not always a fan of Robo first, just because there's not a lot of, like, it's pretty good in the sense you can get an Observer pretty fast. But going really fast Colossus is a little bit risky in my opinion. Just because you're not too sure, like, if he's going tank immediately. A lot of people do go tank pretty fast. Some people just go for Widowmine, but this guy actually went straight tank, which is really good for him, actually. But the thing also is that when you reveal this too early and he finds out you're going to Colossus, he's not going to stop the tank production. And all of a sudden, he's going to have a really strong army. Because if you go up to 3-4 tanks, you're going to be really good versus Colossus. Yeah. So you get out 2 observers before starting Colossus, which is pretty nice. But all in all, I mean, this is fine. This is fine. As long as you research your Twilight Council upgrades, you should be fine here for sure. This is really good spotting. Do you see the double gas? This is pretty important. No, not quite yet. I think at this time, you're supposed to get the double gas anyway. But, you know, don't be afraid to just, like, unsiege it real quick. Maybe just go around and just check the tech real quick. What have you spotted realistically? I mean, you haven't even spotted anything in the main. You don't know if there's a third yet. Probably one of the things you could do is just send it in right here. Just check for the infrastructure, see what he's doing. Okay, we see a tech lab. Okay, that's one thing. So we got to be wary of that if we're going Colossus. And we see a third base already done. That's a lot of information that you can just come in, peek in, and then come back out. Cool, we're getting this. This is an off position. We've talked about this in the other game as well, but I much prefer shield batteries to be here and your army to be here. Here is like okay if you're like pushing him back, but let's say he has a siege position right here, which is really good behind rocks. These get picked off for free, so I'm not a fan of this positioning right now. I'd be much more of a fan of like maybe pylon here, and then shield batteries right here. I think that would be much better. Because you know what? I mean, your shield batteries, like, they can still die. They're not just like, they're not untargetable, right? You don't want to put them in a vulnerable. You don't want to put anything in a vulnerable position. Yeah. Okay, you have pretty good vision here, which is nice. He spots this. He spots this. He gets the watchtower. And we're pretty much going to Colossus Tech. We're almost done with Thermal Lance. Do we have any upgrades? Yeah, we got Charge. I think ideally, especially when you're going Colossus, you should always get Blink. Try not to forget that, because once he starts going into Vikings, if his Vikings like start to maneuver here from on the side, you can actually just mirror him and blink to the side immediately instead of moving your Stalkers, because your Stalker is going to be your main defense versus the Colossus, because you didn't go Stargate, you didn't go Phoenix with your Colossus, right? You're gonna have to go make some Stalkers, and your Stalkers are gonna have to hard time keeping up with the Vikings if their Vikings are trying to outmaneuver to get the picks on the Colossus. Definitely don't forget Blink. It's quite important if you're going Colossus. Cool. So now we see. So that's the thing, right? I don't know when he spotted that you were going Colossus. He spotted at some point here, and this is why he's going nonstop for this production here on tanks, because tanks are really good versus what you have. Like, there's 3 Colossus. Versus these tanks, man, Colossus have such trouble with versus tanks, because not only are they not light units, but they can outrange them as well, and they do extra damage versus them, so really good units. Okay, we're taking a 4th base, not bad timing, pretty good. 2-2. Here are the upgrades, a little bit late, but it's doable. Do you have +1 attack? Yeah, you do, okay. Cool. You should have started the 2nd forge here. Oh, no, you did, okay. We're good, not bad. But the Terran is still ahead, and he shouldn't necessarily be ahead right now. Okay, we get a 4th base. He's being pretty turtly right now. And what do we see? So this is where I'm going to start to take a little bit of issue with what he's doing, right? So right now we've got an observer. We've got a pretty good idea of what he's going for. We're seeing ghosts starting to get added, and we see a lot of tanks. This army is theoretically, for the Terran, invincible. He's fighting fire with fire. A lot of the times the Protoss army is a giant death ball, and so he's going for the death ball himself. Now, when Terran goes for the death ball himself, where it's just mass tank with, you know, some ghosts, some marauders, like, this shreds through stuff, like the marauders shred through the stalkers, this EMPs, like, this is a shredder army. But it does have his weaknesses. And the weakness is actually the same thing as what normally Protoss is that it is immobile. It doesn't have a lot of map prio, which is why he is kind of sitting at home, and he's using a lot of defensive stuff because he just wants to build his death ball, and his death ball is stronger than his. But we're gonna see how we deal with that in a little bit here. So here, obviously, Protoss playing very passive. It's just kind of what they're used to. But, okay, we see the... Do we see the Unsiege here? I forget. I don't know what happened to the Observer. Okay, this army is very, very scary here. In theory, this army beats anything Protoss can throw at you. In theory. Now, he's going to be a little bit aggressive here, which is fine. And we're going to have a fight soon, and I want to talk about the fight. Cool. Okay, so we see that this is going on here. This is the first mistake, okay? We're going to look at this fight. We're going to zoom out here just a little bit. So, before you take a fight versus a Terran who is set up, make sure you are set up as well. Zerg does this really, really well when they have to take an engagement versus Terran, because what they have to do is that they're like, okay, I'm going to have to wait for this round of units, and then I'll be at my best, and then I'll use this surround, or I'll use this arc, or I'm going to wait for my banelings. I'm going to make sure my position is optimal before I go into a fully sieged kind of Terran army. And Protoss here has to do the same thing. The Terran army is already in position. You can't just A-move it, just like you would if it was in the mid map. So what is the ideal position here? Well, there are two parts to this Terran army. You've got the back line of tanks, and you've got the front line of bio. Okay? And in terms of what the Protoss has, he has the Colossus with the Storm and the Zealots here on the other side. Now, look at this. Do you see what's wrong here? So, the tanks are really good versus High Templar and Colossus, and the bio is really good versus Zealots. The tanks are really bad versus the Zealots, and Colossus Storm is really good against the bio. Do you see the problem in this picture? These, like, I'm just pointing at my screen, but you can't see what my hand movement is. The Zealots should be on this side. The Colossus Storm should be on this side. This is where he just rushes in, and the Terran is getting the most optimal possible engagement here, because he has his tanks up against what it's good against, and he has his bio up against what it's good against as well. And you see, it's like here, you took a fight before you finish your warp-in cycle. This is like Zerg, right? Where they're waiting for their banelings to finish. They're waiting for their larva to pop before taking that full engage. And this is what he has not done. Right now, these got so many shots off of this that it got it so weak that the bio can just crush it. So this fight, what you had to do 100% is just wait for all of your warp-ins, make sure you're ready, and make sure that the army, the parts of your army is, and wait for that the two parts of your army is going up against what it's good against. So the Zealots here went up against bio, which was the wrong thing. They wanted to go on tanks, which they're really good against. And the Colossus Storm here did not want to go against the tanks. You wanted to have the other way around. So just take a moment to just set up the fight just a little bit better. Like he was sieged here, he would have had to de-siege anyway. Like you didn't have to rush into the fight here. If this was a mid-map situation, maybe that would be different, but he's already set up. And if he gives you his best setup, you better give him your best setup. This goes pretty south. Somehow the fight still goes like not bad, but that was less than optimal. If there was a Zealot flank here with Colossus Storm on this side or something like that, oh baby, that would have been a different fight altogether. He actually does still lose this. Jesus, that's not fantastic. So now you're thinking, well, Necro, how the hell do you beat something that's good against everything? So the tanks are really good. They do splash damage. They have a long range. They are good against armored units. You've got ghosts that are good versus zealots. They EMP. You've got marauders. Like, what am I supposed to build? Like you know, Archons aren't good because they have they have shields. So that's countered by the ghost. You've got Stalkers, which are countered by the Marauders and the tanks. You got Colossus, which are countered by Marauder and tanks. You've got the Immortal that's soft countered by the Marauder and the EMP. You've got Zealots that are countered by the Zealots. Shit, what the fuck do I do? And this is the part where this isn't about army composition anymore. Don't think of because you're like, no, none of my units are good against what he has. But don't think about what the units do. Just think about what their purpose is. The big weakness with Ghost Tank is that it's, in a way, mobile, but it's also very, vulnerable in a lot of cases before it's siege, right? And they're just very slow in general. Like tanks are very slow-moving units. Ghost cannot stim. They don't have that kind of speed and mobility that the rest of Bio normally has. So once you know that happens, what you have to do is you have to make sure your observers are in place and you can know where he's going at. Because if you can catch him with, some disruptors, some zealots, really nicely timed, attacks mid-map, and just be active on the map, which is something that I don't think Kilgoretrout knows how to do. He's always been so used to the Terran attacking into me, the Terran having map control. It is my job to defend and outscale him. This Terran did something that kind of hard counters his style, where all of a sudden it's like now the Terran is passive and the Terran is trying to outscale the Protoss through a really powerful army comp. So the way to beat that is simply to be active on the map. Just have multiple armies, have some zealot run-bys. Like this is like some zealot DTs, like going into this. What is tank with Ghost gonna do? Like, are they just gonna run over to here to defend? Like, if they're mid-map, are you suddenly gonna siege the tank and like the Ghost can't run away? If you catch the Ghost out of position, the only thing you can do to save them is like pick up micro into a medevac. Like, they're not like Bio where you can just stim away. So catching his army is definitely going to be the play here, and to do that, you're going to have to be more active on the map. Having charge lots, having blink DT is really, really useful. Having a couple blink stalkers maybe as well. You can go into disruptors. Disruptors are really good because like the tanks aren't going to be that forward, so they won't always get like he's always going to want to have the tanks and then the bio in front, right? And as I said, the Ghosts do not have stim. They have a hard time being mobile. So once you use disruptors, well, unlike Marine Marauder, they can't split very easily. So once you target the Ghost with some disruptors, that's going to be very good as well. Parting tried to do this with TY as well, but TY is really, really good. He was able to be defensive, never got caught out of position. But the goal against against Tank, Ghost, and Marauder is just to be simply active on the map with very mobile units. If you're playing passive against that kind of army composition with your army, then it's just not going to work very much. Yeah, and of course disruptors can't be EMP'd, so that's a really big part as well. That's why disruptors are really strong, because you can't deny their spells. It's impossible to deny them, unless you have like a Raven, which nobody does at this point. Yep, so right now you're starting to be active, but you don't have that much vision, right? Like right here, this is pretty vulnerable. Like, this army's not super like there's some Marauders here. There's a couple of Ghosts as well, but there's not that many tanks anymore. And the more you're active, the more you're going to get scouting information as well. The thing that happened between Parting versus TY in the GSL in Season 1 this year is that he was literally just massing Tank Ghost. And once you see that there's like 7+ tanks, start dropping those Stargates, baby, because your Stargate transition is going to be really, really strong. So I think one of the biggest things in this game that could have definitely changed is just having a more on-the-map army, just more map control. See, this is easy. What is he going to do? He's so slow here. These things are so slow. Like, the counterattack was really strong. And you don't have to move your whole army together either. You can just have a pack of Zealots. Just get those upgrades really, really strong there. And I'll just definitely get Disruptors instead of Immortals here. Just go like 2 Colossus, 2-3 Colossus, a really good number. Then go into Disruptors. Disruptors are going to be much stronger here in this position. And if you don't like Disruptors, learn to use them. It's a part of the game. See, now we're starting to get kind of the Zealot army composition going. The problem is that we're a little bit behind on the economy, so it's going to be a little bit rough. See? Tries to move forward. He doesn't have that much stuff. And all of a sudden now he's starting to transition out of Ghosts. It doesn't have that many Ghosts anymore, so we can start to go back into that. But, I mean, you took the fight a little bit too hard here. You could have just left for sure. Too many Vikings here at this point, not enough anti-air. That's pretty much going to be the game at that point. I think, yeah, definitely when you notice that there's like Ghosts and a lot of tanks, you're going to have to be more active on the map. Trying to pick those fights mid-map. Try to exploit the fact that he has slow, like kind of slower units that are a little bit more vulnerable to in the map kind of engagements. And you even clean that up really. Yeah, I have to say, you're still doing not that bad actually, despite all that. Yeah, definitely. So, some Immortal, maybe some Disruptors, some Blink DT, some Charge, just really fast-moving units to counter the slow-moving ones. Yeah, this is an overextension. Obviously, there's a lot of overextensions in this game in general, but I think you get the point where, especially with Liberators now, like, a lot of times when to counter Liberator play, you kind of need to have Blink Stalkers move around, blink around, you know, they're really clunky, you have to unsiege them a lot. You're going to have to just be more active here. The passive play is really good against people that are just going straight by with Widow Mines maybe, but against like this style of like tank and Ghost and stuff like that, just exploit the fact that they're slow units with fast units. Don't just think about what is good versus what, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it for the analysis here. And make sure, of course, you set yourself up before you run into a sieged up Terran. Just make sure you're set up as well. Don't just go in whenever. Just make sure that the zealots go into what they're supposed to, and that the AOE is supposed to go on what it's supposed to, right? So you have to switch up those two balls here at that point at some point. So yeah, that's pretty much for the analysis. I'm just rambling. I repeated it a billion times, but hopefully it's drilled in. Basically, all right. See you next time.